Hi folks, so this is question 8. So what you have to write down for part A the length, the breadth and the height of the box. So it's in terms of x. That means you can give x within your answer. So the key thing here to see is that when the box is folded up, the length of it won't be the full amount. We know that here as well. This is 10 as well on the side because it's a square box. So if the bottom is 10, that's 10 as well. But when the box is folded up, it won't be that full. So that red line there isn't going to be the same thing as that. That red line, when it's folded up, will just be the inner bit. So this will be it, because all of this here folds up. So if you're kind of thinking about what the length of that would be, if the whole thing there is 10, so the whole thing is 10, but you have to take away an x, because that's also going to be x there, because the width of this little bit here is x. So you're going to have to take away x on one side and then take away x again. So it'll be 10 minus x, and you can simplify that then into 10 minus 2x. So that's the length of it. The breadth of it will be the same thing. It's kind of just, it's up here, so it's kind of this line here you're finding. But that's going to be, again, the whole thing is 10, and you're taking away x and you're taking away x. So it'll be the same thing as the first answer, so it'll be 10 minus 2x as well. The height of it then, so if you're thinking about if you fold it up there, the height of it will actually just be this little bit here. It'll be the length of the kind of the side bit. So it's the same as that. So that has to be the same as this basically. So it's just going to be x, because the length of it is x. So the height of the box in terms of x is just x. So show that the volume of the box can be written as v of x equals 4x cubed minus 40x squared plus 100x. So what you need to know for volume is that it's just the length multiplied by the breadth multiplied by the height. So if we're doing length times breadth times height, breadth is pretty much the same thing as width. Okay, so just don't get confused by that. So it's going to be 10 minus 2x multiplied by 10 minus 2x multiplied by x. So if we just focus on these two first, there's different ways of multiplying out double, so just kind of forget about the x first and we'll multiply it in after. There's different ways of multiplying out double brackets. You can go off and do the grid method if you want, but you should get 100 minus 20x minus 20x plus 4x squared. So if I tidy that up, and that still all has to be multiplied by x. So if I tidy this up a little bit inside the bracket, we'll have 4x squared minus 40x plus 100, and it's starting to look like what they want, like what it says. It said above in the question, and all that has to be multiplied by x. So if you multiply each of those by x, then you'll get basically what this is up here. So x multiplied by 4x squared is 4x cubed. X multiplied by minus 40x is minus 40x squared, and x multiplied by 100 is 100x, so plus 100x. And then that's it. That's the answer for that part. You've shown that that is v of x, so you can put in that as well. So equals v of x basically. Explain why a box of height 6 units cannot be made from the sheet of cardboard. So if you look back up at the kind of what the box was at the start, so remember again the height is x. So what they're saying is that if the height was 6, could it work? And well, they're kind of saying it can't work, but why? So if the height was 6, then x has to be 6. So if height is 6, then x equals 6. So if x equals 6, think about what the length and the breadth are. Okay, they're 10 minus 2x. So that's what's going to be the problem here. So yeah, so if x equals 6, then the length, or you could put breadth there if you want, equals 10 minus 2 times 6, 2 multiplied by 6. So that's going to be 10 minus 12, which is equal to minus 2. So then the length would be minus 2, but that's impossible to see because you can't have a negative length. So you just say you can't have a negative length. So that's why you can't have 6 as the height. So I'll complete the table then and show the value for v of x is equal to 4x cubed minus 40x squared plus 100x. So what you're doing here is you're just subbing each of those into in instead of x in this. So to get the first one, what you're doing is you're putting a 0 in instead of the x in each of them. So v of 0 would be 4 times 0 cubed. This is just going to be 0 in the end, you might be able to see. So minus 40 times 0 squared plus 100 times 0. So if you put all that in the calculator, or you don't need to put that in the calculator because you can kind of see, you might be able to see anyway it's going to be 0. You should get a 0 answer. So the answer then is 0, so you put in 0 in there. And then you do the same thing for the next one. Well, they fill in the next one. 0.5 is 40.5, but for the one after that, then what you do is you put in a 1 instead. So you do 4 times 1 cubed minus 40 times 1 squared plus 100 times 1, and you get your answer. You can use calculator there. So if you work out all of those, then you should get 64, 73.5. 72, 62.5, 48, 31.5, 16, and the next one is given, and then the last one is 0. So that's when you sub in all of the numbers in. So that's all you have to do for part D. Part E then is graphing it. So all you do is you go, well, 0, 0 is going to be a point on anyway, because you're taking each of these basically as coordinates then. So 0, 0. So the next one is 0.5 and 40.5. So what you do is you just go across to 0.5 along the bottom, which is there, and you go up to 40.5, which is around about there, and you just put a dot then where they meet. So it'll be about here. So we go across to 0.5 and up to 40.5, and then we're going to go across to 1 and up to 64. So it'll be about there. 1.5 and 73.5. So it's there. So you have to just put it in as close as you can. So 2 and 72. So it'll be around there. 2.5 and 62.5. 48 and 3 and 48. So around there. 3.5 and 31.5. So even if you're a little bit off with these, you won't lose any marks as long as it's pretty much within the box or within the right side of the box that's given. So 4 and 16. So don't spend too much time trying to put the dot in perfectly right. 4.5, 4.5, and then the last one is 5, 0. So it's down here. Okay, so we can just connect up all those then. So as best you can again, Remember, you won't be docked marks if you, as long as it's not completely, as long as you don't draw the line away from any of the dots. So that's the curve that we're getting. So that's part E. Part F. So use your graph to estimate each of the following values. So the maximum volume of the box. So the maximum volume of the box, you're going to be looking up at the top of the graph. So you're basically looking around here, what's the highest that it gets up to. So the highest it gets up to, what you really should do as well, to be a really good idea, is to show you're working on the graph. So if you use a ruler there, kind of go across like this, you're just showing the examiner, you know, exactly what you're doing. So so it's up to yourself really there. It's probably 74, and that's just my graph. So it'll be, you'll be allowed, if you had 73, 72, 75, something around there, you will get the marks. There'll be an in between that you'll be allowed. So I'll go with 74. Yeah, and it's just is it units squared? Yeah, it was in the first part, it was in units, so it'll just be units squared. Or square units, I should write. Next one, so the value of x, which will create a box which has a volume of 30 units cubed. Okay, so let's look at where 30 units cubed would be. So the only place that a 30 exists, either up here or down here, is up the side there, so it's here. So this is 30, so that's a clue anyway of what you need to do. So if I was to draw a line across there at 30, you'll see that it cuts the grid at 2 points. So it's here and here, so these are going to be the answers basically at what x values. So the x values then would be just kind of down from there. So I'm getting pretty much halfway there between 0 and 0.5, so I'll just use 0.25 as one answer, and then the other one, yeah, so it's hard to draw a straight line on this, but I'd say it's not fully 3.75. I'll just say maybe 3.7. Again, you won't be docked marks if you're not exactly right here, but showing the workings on the graph is a good idea. Yeah, it actually says it in the question here. So in each case, show your work on the graph above. So you have to show those lines that I put in up there. So my two answers are 0.25 and 3.7. The last one then, so the volume of the box when x is 2.8 units. So let's look for 2.8 on the graph. So 2.8 is pretty much down here. So if I was to draw a line straight up there, or as straight as I can, we're going to just see where it hits the graph. So it's, for me, it's hitting it about there. So let's draw across. Nice, the line straightens out. So it's kind of maybe 54 there. Yeah, so I'm getting about 54. So I'm going to give my answer as 54 square units. So yours might be slightly different. But again, remember there'll be a tolerance for it in the exam. So if you're a little bit above or below whatever is in the marking scheme, you'll still get the marks. So I think that's it for that question. Yeah, so that's all for question 8.